one thing that I found that really works for me recently is I was working with a mental coach, Kenji Summers, towards the end of last year, and when pressures are high in the situation that we were last year, we were fighting a relegation battle, and you have these high pressure games that have a lot of intensity. I think breathwork is huge to kind of manage the anxiety or that kind of stress that maybe you might not even be aware of.
I think it's very interesting to try to find that balance of having that flair and ego on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I saw you said something, you watched the Zlatan interview and you saw how he's just not scared when he goes onto the pitch.
Yeah.
So I think that balance is huge. So how do you strike that balance of having that flair and ego and confidence on the pitch, and then off the pitch remaining grounded?
It's a good question. I think it's tough. I think everybody has their own kind of way of showing it. I don't know. There's a lot of things that come into it. The motivation, like what inspires you. But then also, being able to switch it on and off. I think, when you go into situations and games, you need to have some level of arrogance, some level of ego, but within control. I think everyone has their own personality to show, and it's about showing that, but also, being able to flip it around and be like, just be humble about it and be respectful and still willing to do the things in the right way and work hard. And I think it's hard. It's not easy. I think you see so many players these days that, find it hard to find that balance, just like you said. And there's a lot of things that can influence that, the people around you, how much money you're earning or whatever. And I think it's tough. It's really hard. But in order to get to the top level, like, you need to find your own balance, your own kind of way of working through these things.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like, other guys are like this, other guys are like that. And I think it's all about like embracing your own swag, let's say, like your own style.
Yeah.
And like people either they want to, ride with you, they want to jam with you or not, and I think that's what it's all about. And like you said, obviously on the pitch, it's the same thing. It's like all about finding your own way that makes you perform your best, and you find your own routine so you can perform on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And people have their own different paths. I mean, you look at the way I got to where I am and my pathway, and you compare it with someone from England. We got to the same point, but all through different ways, and you have a lot of different experiences that can affect your personality or your character and so many different parts of life. So I think that you have your principles that you can kind of keep the same, but like you said, is showing your own swag, showing your own flair, and but having the ability to maybe switch it on and off. When you do walk on the pitch, a lot of people talk about these days about having almost like a split personality or an alter ego that when you walk on the pitch, okay, like this is where I turn into like this kind of person. I feel this kind of way, and I've spoken with some psychologists where they tell you to do something with your hand to kind of make you feel that way. You like charge up your hand motion, and it's like a practice. So within your practice, you do your hand motion, you think of all these things that make you feel a certain way, and then you use your hand gesture to remember yourself into that kind of mode, really. And then when you walk on a pitch, when you do that hand motion, you remind yourself of how you're supposed to be feeling and what you're supposed to be thinking like, and when you come off, then it's you're back to your normal self again. There's a lot of different things that can work for some people. I think a psychologist is another option, just to help people work through those things. I think me personally, I'm quite open-minded. I like to explore pretty much anything that can help me out in different ways, and I've kind of been down the psychologist path and spoken to some different people, and it's been really interesting what you can do or with working with different people.
100%. Yeah, I mean, there's something that I always go back to. There's this neuroscientist that I love listening to, Andrew Huberman, and he says the highest performers have the ability to switch on and off, and it's the same thing like a lion, lions, they spend most of their day resting, but when it's time to hunt, they hunt. You know what I mean? So
100%.
I think, like, personally for me, like, as I get older, and I, observe football more, through clients, through myself, through just being around it, I think the mental part of the game is probably one of the most important. Obviously, you have to have the ability, you have to have the talent. But yeah, like, if, one of the most common questions I get is like, Rick, I'm so good in team training, I feel so good in individual training, but when games come, I just feel so much pressure. I lose confidence. I feel like I've never played the game before. You have any, like, tips for them, or something that you do, like, to get yourself into that zone and flip yourself into that alter ego, that different personality?
Yeah, I mean, like I've just said, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. There's, if you're working with a psychologist, you can use hand gestures to charge that emotion up. One thing that I found that really works for me recently is I was working with a mental coach, Kenji Summers, towards the end of last year, and when pressures are high in the situation that we were last year, we were fighting a relegation battle, and you have in these high pressure games that have a lot of intensity. I think the breath work is huge to kind of manage the anxiety or that kind of stress that maybe you might not even be aware of. And I think, because in my head, I'm always telling myself, I'm good, you're good to go, always next thing. And I think just taking a step out of that, just taking a moment to kind of be present, breath work is huge for that. And he kind of helped me, with certain things that you can do leading up to a game. I think different forms of, like, meditation, for instance, leading up, but I found going into these high pressure games, it helped me notice that everybody in the changing room was so so pumped up, almost like too much. The fact that you start, like, even in the games, it started to show you make decisions on the ball that maybe is not part of, like, your position. You need to be, like, calm and composed in a lot of situations in football, and people were just too rash and too quick to kind of make bad decisions, really. So having that time to use the breath work. I think I used to do it right before going out for warm-ups and stuff, which is crazy, because some people think, all right, we're going out for warm-ups, right, let's play loud music, let's get pumped up, but I think that's good in a way. You do need that, but also having some sort of breath work to, okay, you can bring that intensity, but you can be calm and focused as well at the same time. And, like, using that was big for me last year. But yeah, I that's one thing that I've used, but there's so many things out there. I mean, you do a lot of research online, and what works for footballers, what doesn't, and every footballer is different, and it's just about finding out what works best for you.
100%. Yeah, I love that. I mean, one thing that came to mind, one thing that I've been on lately is, how can you be calm in the chaos? Like you said, I mean, obviously, you're in crazy stadiums, crazy fans, crazy pressure. Like, can you find that calm in the chaos? Because one thing that you just kept saying is, like, and we both know the most important thing is the mindset, but then how does that mindset affect your decision making? So, like you said, like, if you're pumped up and you're amped up on too much caffeine and you're pumped up with the music, you might make, like you said, rash decisions, impulse decisions, instead of being calm in the chaos and trying to slide into that.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge.
Hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure you click one of these two videos right here to stay up to date with the best football development channel here on YouTube. And most importantly, don't forget to drink your sparkling water. Deuces.